I'm sure when you're in any religion, but I know that even like within growing up in the LDS church, when you would hear that, not even to this extent, but, oh, a bishop did this to a child or something, your first instinct is, there's no way. There's no way that that could happen,
right?
Because bishops are inherently good and called of God, right? So therefore they can't do do this thing. So when you are in the same religious group, it is harder to believe. And like I said, and that's probably the same in any religion. Like you never want to believe that a Catholic priest
believes the same as you.
That believes the same as other Catholics would do such a thing. Or like I said, or a Mormon bishop or this person in that faith. Like you want to believe that the values that your faith promotes of love and kindness and all those type of things are going to be inherently across the board, and even more so in people who hold higher positions.
Welcome back, everyone. My name is Sam.
And I'm Melissa.
I was born and raised in the FLDS community. It is a polygamous group run by Warren Jeffs, and I moved out when I was 18 years old.
I was raised LDS. Sam and I have been married for 9 years and have 2 awesome kiddos.
Yes, we do. We want to quickly thank our donors, our YouTube members, and our patrons over on Patreon. We really do appreciate your support.
Yes, and if anybody likes to hear content like this about how it was for Sam to grow up in polygamy, or our insight on other religious films, documentaries, or any other videos, then please like and subscribe.
Yes, thank you all so much. We are back with another episode of Sins of Our Mother. This is episode number 3 and the final episode. Woo! And it's a heavy one.
Yes, at this point, as we're starting part 3, the last thing that we had seen in episode 2 was Chad and Lori Daybell are found in Hawaii, and she cannot show any proof that her kids are okay, and so they arrest her. And they bring her back to the mainland. And at this point, this is where obviously we know something bad has happened. They've been searching for the children for so long. And, you know, people like the reporters get sent. Strangely enough, this was weird. I don't know if this was on purpose, but unanimously get sent 666 photos of Chad and Lori's wedding, and they look happy. And now this news breaks that they're married, and it's only right after Chad's wife died mysteriously and all this stuff. But in all of these pictures, there's no children still. So it's really starting to become clear that something bad had happened, and they're trying to figure it out, and law enforcement's trying to put all these puzzle pieces together. Yeah. And as Lori's talking to Colby, which was a huge piece of this episode, was Colby is Lori's oldest son, who was married before any of this happened and had a baby of his own. But he's talking to his mom in jail, and I think one of the craziest parts of all of this is she continued to just be like, the kids are fine. They're safe. They're in a safe place. Everything's good. You know what kind of mother I am. I would never hurt my kids. Just all of these things. And she sounds completely calm. And she just continues to tell him, even after they find the kids, just continues to tell them, like, oh, well, you just don't understand.
You don't have the full picture.
You don't have the full picture, Colby. You don't understand it. I would be infuriated. And he was too.
There's nothing to understand. And to use something like that, and she very well knows exactly what has happened to her children at this point. She knows. And in her twisted mind, claiming that they're safe, did she actually think that they were safe because...
Well, if they were zombies and their spirits were in limbo, now they're set free.
Just her mentality. And I know that she was claiming that it was because of her celestial or spiritual experiences and all of that. And so it's hard to understand where she's coming from. I do know that the way she tried to make sense of it or tell people that it made sense was because she knew more than them. She had lived all these different lives in these different universes, and if only they could understand, it's all God's will and what he wants. But my gosh, I know that she's sick. She's not right in the mind. I do know that, but that's not an excuse for this kind of stuff. Yeah,
it was just super sad. And the way that she says it so convincingly, so much that even, she tells her family and her mom, the kids, they're fine. They're in a safe place. Everything's fine. So much that her mom and her sister go on national television to defend her, that she would never do anything to the kids. Now, this is a hard one because you can't put yourself into their shoes. How you are not, or how you're able to say she would never do anything, the kids are fine, she would never hurt them, and yet not get the answer from her of where the kids are and prove to me they're fine first is kind of, I'm surprised that they were willing to go along with it without her showing the kids. But she said every single thing with so much confidence. And we've seen this from the very, very beginning, right? She says with confidence to the police, oh, my ex-husband's just being crazy. Ha ha ha. Just laughing, smiling, whatever. No big deal. And then she passes her psych eval. And then she, you know, every single step of the way, she's acted like nothing's a big deal and everything's fine and good. And so she convinced her mom and sister too that the kids are fine.
We never heard the conversation between her and her mom or her and her aunt. So we don't know exactly, or her sister. We don't know exactly what was being said between them. So I don't know what she used to try to convince them, because it sure seemed like that her mom especially was convinced that she wasn't, or that she was innocent, I guess. Yeah.
And I mean, props to the mom for being willing in this documentary. She's like, I was wrong. I was wrong. And I can't imagine how hard that pill would be to swallow, because especially if you feel like you know your child, you feel like you know what they would do, you're going to want to believe them, right? You're going to want to pick them above anything else in the world. So I can't imagine how hard that would be as a mother to realize that your child had done something so terrible and awful.
Well, and you have to realize here as well that her mother didn't realize that she was a part of any kind of cult or a part of this Daybell thing, because she said,
realized she was with Chad. That's another thing.
But even after that, they asked her mom, were they a part of a cult or a part of a Daybell group? And her mom said no. So I don't think her mom knew much of what was going on. And her mom did think that her daughter, Lori, was a part of the same faith and that had the same values and things like that. So being in this similar mindset, or at least so her mom thought, I can see why she would try to immediately want to jump to, no, this can't actually be true. She wouldn't actually hurt her children. People tend to trust like-minded people, to people that think similar to them. And this goes beyond just family. I think that there's this feeling if you belong to a certain church group, for example, and you go to that church, there's this almost instant trust that you have around those with you, because you assume that they have similar feelings and they have similar beliefs and values that you do. So I can see why that would be tough.
Another thing that she kept bringing up to Colby religiously, while we're on the topic of religion, was she kept bringing up Abraham and Isaac and kept bringing up that story. And this is before he knew for sure she was guilty. Obviously, he knew that things were messed up and why aren't you telling me where my siblings are? But before they had found the kids' bodies, she keeps bringing up Abraham and Isaac. And obviously that is super horrifying to hear someone talk about that story when you're dealing with children, because then you're like, okay, so if God told you to kill your child, would you do it? And if the direction isn't coming from God, would you continue and finish the job, right? Because in the story of Abraham, at the very, very last second, he was told not to. And if God doesn't tell you not to, would Abraham have done it? Absolutely, he would have. And so her taking that story in the Bible and not equating, but mentioning it so many times, I'm sure was just making Colby sick.
Oh yeah, it's so scary. It's so scary. If someone takes a story like that literally, like the story of Abraham and Isaac, they take it literally, and then they think that God can speak to them, like they actually believe that they're hearing God speak to them, and then
why wouldn't they?
There's no end to what could potentially happen at that point. Yeah. Because anything that comes to their mind, and if they think it's coming from God, then they're going to feel justified in doing it. So that is just scary, scary, scary. And that's where you have to be so careful. Oh, man. It's just, where do you draw the line, right?
Mm-hmm. Luckily, because of technology, they were able to see Alex's phone because he has already died at this point. And so they're able to ping it into Chad Daybell's backyard. they're starting to connect more and more pieces. They search Chad's property. Chad tries to go on the run from the property.
He
and
sees
they
them getting
catch
close,
him.
I'm guessing.
Yeah, basically. And the kids' remains were able to be found on that property. And, Chad had his hearing in 2020. And again, part of me that I can't wait to ask, we have Mike King, who's going to be filming a video with us, answering our questions about this case because he knows it very well, and he's been watching the trials.
Very much involved with this.
He does interviews on court TV all the time, that type of stuff. So we're super excited to have an expert on this case for our next video. But I can't wait to ask him questions about this because Chad pled not guilty.
On all accounts.
On all accounts. And then Lori is acting like nothing happened to her kids, like they're still around or something. They're just safe. They're fine. Everything's fine. And obviously they did say that Lori had to go to 90 days of treatment in a medical facility before she would be competent enough to have a trial. And so I can't wait to hear more information on that.
But she was found competent. They found that she could go to trial at the end of the show. They did say that she was found able to stand trial.
Yeah. So, but to have these people both in that mindset of still acting like they didn't do anything wrong throughout this entire experience up to this point is just kind of baffling to me. A lot of times when people commit crimes or even murders or horrible things, they'll just, when they get caught, they're like, okay, yeah, I did do those things. Or they do end up confessing at least at some point, or they say, they take a plea deal or do all these other things. But to just say, nope, I'm not guilty. My kids are fine. Everything's fine.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Like we said, we're excited to have Mike King on with us because he is going to shed a lot of light on some of these questions we have and what's currently going on and how it led to that. I know that Chad, in the beginning, these were the beginning stages of his trial where he was pleading not guilty. Mm-hmm. I don't know what he pled later on. Do you?
Nope.
Okay, so those are some questions we have that just as, well, a couple of the hundreds of questions we have. But yes, I don't know what came out later. But in the beginning, I can totally see him pleading not guilty. I mean, he's been lying for years and years and years at this point. Why start telling the truth now? And he knows that if he pleads guilty on any of those, it's immediate, highest punishment possible for doing something like that.
Yeah, so we're excited for Mike King and to learn more about this and learn what's happened since. Like I said, this documentary definitely just scrapes the surface, sheds a little bit of light on the timeline of how things happened, how things went down in order for them to be in prison. But this was happening in 2020. So at this point, it's been about 4 years since then. And so I'm sure there's a lot that's transpired between everybody. And we'll try to ask Mike King as many of those as possible and try to get our questions answered as to this insane, so sad, so tragic case.
Yeah. Once again, we're sorry that you even have to hear these kinds of things, and we hate that we even have to cover it. We've had a lot of requests to do it, and we're happy to try to shed light where we can and try to get an expert on like Mike King to answer a lot of these questions. But it's just so sad that these kinds of things even happen. It just blows my mind that a human being could do something like this.
Yeah. If you want to hear more about what it was like for Sam to grow up in polygamy or more of our thoughts on extreme religion mindset, then please like and subscribe.
Yes. Thank you all so much for being with us here again, and we look forward to talking with you soon.
Talk to you soon.